Good evening, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. My name is Jennifer Sue, as you know, and tonight I'm going to be talking about my relationship with my oldest friend and how it informs some important life decisions for me. Lily Leong was that kid on the first day of kindergarten who barely spoke a word of English, but still charmed the heck out of everybody. And by December, she had picked up the language so quickly that our kindergarten teacher presented to her with an award, which was an honorary ticket into U.S. culture. Now, the first time that I went to her house to play, I did notice that that symbolic ticket held an important place in her room. It was tacked up over her bed. And over the years, knowing her family became an honorary entrance ticket for me into a different culture. Lily's parents owned an Asian food market in town, and it was a very eclectic clientele there. It was always a lively place to go. You could be enveloped by the sound of different foreign languages being spoken in a little town like Modesto, California. And just walking down the aisles, there was all manner of exotic food items that you couldn't see in the regular grocery stores. Particularly the butcher counter fascinated me. There were meat products that you didn't see in the regular supermarket. Now, Lily's older boy cousin, Doug, worked behind the butcher counter. And I remember one day he called us to come in close and then suddenly revealed a decapitated pig's head and made squealing noises. And we ran away. We were laughing hysterically, though. It wasn't until years later that I learned coming to my house for Lily was also an interesting cultural experience, a chance to see how family very different from her own lived. And she also got to listen to a lot of rock and roll music there. We used to sit outside my brother's bedroom door, which was shut, and listen to them play their albums. And for some reason, they liked to play Stairway to Heaven over and over again. And we would sing along with Robert Plant and play air guitar to Jimmy Page's guitar solo, and wonder out loud what the heck a bustle in the hedgerow was. Lily told me later in life that her fondest childhood memory was at my house. The neighborhood kids decided one day to do an epic remake of Star Wars, and Lily got to be Princess Leia. Well, this was very meaningful for her. I think as an Asian American growing up in the 70s and 80s, roles like Princess Leia weren't often offered to her. And certainly her parents weren't on the bandwagon for her learning to play electric guitar and listen to rock and roll music. So she really enjoyed coming to our house, and sometimes my brothers would take down the guitar and let her try to tap out the Van Halen's Eruption solo. So it was a great experience for her coming to my house too. I remember after our freshman year of high school, we decided to take a couple of classes at the local junior college. We took a music appreciation class and a cultural anthropology class. Lily really excelled in the music appreciation class at distinguishing all the different classical pieces that sounded the same to me. And she enjoyed chatting up the professor too, who had been to Woodstock and seen Jimi Hendrix play. I liked the cultural anthropology class. And we had an assignment in that class to interview somebody from a different culture and write a paper about their life experience. I asked Lily if she would ask her grandmother if I could interview her. So the interview was arranged, and on the day we sat around the table, Lily translated and I furiously took notes. And here are some of the things that I remember her grandmother telling us. She told us that her own mother was the first wife of several wives of a wealthy soap factory owner. And she was kind of relegated to staying home because her feet were bound. Before the law changed in 1914, she was a wealthy housewife and had her feet bound. But at the mahjong table, she was the master of the universe, and she won everybody's money and applied merciless strategy to playing mahjong. Maybe in a different time she could have ruled over a boardroom, who knows. I also remember her describing how beautiful her hometown was in Jiangsu province, and how lovely her home was, with a lush green garden in the center of a courtyard that was a heart of the house. I also remember her telling us how she woke up one night screaming, thinking the earth was swallowing her home, when in fact mortar shells were hitting it. And she was terrified that her mother, with her bound feet, wouldn't be able to run away. Now, as older teenagers, my family structure changed a lot. My parents divorced again. My half-siblings grew up and moved away from home. I watched my mom and dad going out on dates as if they were teenagers. In contrast, Lily's house remained the same. It was safe, it was stable, it was predictable. I loved going there more than ever. Our junior year, Lily was invited to the prom by our high school's Japanese exchange student, and her grandmother had to be instructed to set aside the past. She wasn't happy that her granddaughter was going out with a Japanese boy. She still thought of the Japanese as her former enemies who had destroyed her childhood home. So on the day of the prom, she set a chair in front of the front door, and she sat there all day. And she sat there all night until well after midnight when Lily got home from her date. Lily was mortified to see her grandmother still sitting there as if she had not even moved once to get up to go to the bathroom. I, on the other hand, was secretly a little envious. There wasn't anybody waiting for me to come home from my date. So we went off to college, and Lily got to expand her horizons and spread her wings a little bit. She finally got to take those electric bass guitar lessons that she'd always wanted to take, and she got good enough to join a rock and roll band. She married a musician whose parents, like her own, were immigrants, but they were immigrants from Mexico, and she learned how to speak Spanish. I ended up taking Mandarin language classes in college, and upon graduation, I got a job teaching English as a second language in Taiwan, the island that Lily's grandmother's family fled to with the KMT after World War II. So I really cherished my friendship with Lily, and I think for both of us, we were each other's entrance into a wider, diverse, and